Hello, everyone. Welcome to Megh Computing. Today, we're going to be reviewing two things: the Megh VAS dashboard, the .14 version, and also the customer support portal. When enrolling a new customer and end user, both of those locations are the key tools that we use. This will be a high-level overview, and we'll have a second video for more in-depth settings for commissioning cameras, analytics, and alerts, as well as notifications. So let's get started. When you first come to the VAS dashboard portal, you'll see the splash screen and the log on area for all of your credentials. Once in, you'll see a main menu dashboard with 10 base icons. Each of these a section of the dashboard for enrolling, signing up, and managing end users, cameras, and analytics. The left side here are all commands that match really the analytics. The other key piece is if you click on the support icon, it brings you to a support screen. This is where a couple of things happen, and we'll talk about this first today, right? So this is where if you're onboarding any new customer or new site, this is the first place that our channel partners go to enter in the name of that customer. And basically, it's an admin function, if you will. It's where we list the location and request the licenses. Second, it is also your point of contact with us for technical support and other questions. So let's take a little bit deeper look. When you go into new site onboarding, you'll see that it's quite simple. You enter the customer's name, customer's address, how many locations, how many cameras for that site. Let's say that we had 3, whether it's cloud application or on-premise. Then the site information, right? That may be the same as the customer address, or it may be different, right? So I could have a main office location with a different address, and we said 3 cameras. Let's say we happen to say they were cloud for our information. Camera number 1 is main entry. That's going to be a loitering application. That's probably main lobby. Camera number 2, that may be, let's say, north side entry door. That's going to be an intrusion side. That's in a protected premise. Nobody should be there after hours. And camera 3, and that's the rear parking lot. And we're looking for loitering in the car area. So once I've selected those, I select send. And now I have just communicated to Megh my new customer, my site information at the very high level, and most importantly, the analytics that we've selected for that particular customer site. That drives the licensing portion, and so kind of an important element there. The other piece of the customer support portal is technical support. I need level 2 or level 3 support, and analytics not working, let's say, then I can put in my customer name, the site address, the challenge, the impact on the business I'm having in terms of its level of severity, a description about what's taking place. I can attach, if I need to, any pictures or screenshots, and then I can hit send. That will then immediately go into our service queue. It gets an immediate attention. Our partners get a kickback email, and then we'll have immediate response in addressing the situation. In addition to that, there's areas for other questions or billing questions, or even other suggestions around analytics that might be needed. And while you'll probably be in contact, with the Megh team on a frequent basis, this is the method for documenting new customers and service needs as they're tracked and in backlog. And then lastly, there's the resource capabilities here, right, for users manuals for both installation and the dashboard portal. So a good resource center and access for that. You can also go to requests, and it will list any previous requests that have been created, and you can interact by going back into those or anything that's existing. The other topic, and we'll spend a little bit more time on it, of course, is the Megh VAS Suite dashboard. Again, this is the .14 version. This is what is currently in deployment. So we talked at a high level. Let's do a high level overview of the icons, right? So you kind of see what's in the dashboard. Sites is where you configure both add customers, sites, and devices. Camera view is the camera-centric view. So if I wanted to see all cameras for a particular customer I've selected, this is the icon that allows you to do that. We'll go in there deeper. Map view takes all of my sites for a customer, puts them on a map, either worldwide, region-wide, province-wide, statewide, whatever that view is, and a nice resource to be able to have, even if it's up on a monitor, that I can go right to the site from that map view. Configurations has to do with the instance of Nimble that's running VAS for each of our sites, and it lists them out. You won't typically be interacting with those, but it's an area for technical support. Deployment is the section here where you deploy new customers, new sites, new cameras, associate those with sites. So we'll show you that. Let me catch up here to, I don't think I can, there we go. Settings, not unlike your iPhone settings, that is the section for how we program some default settings for VAS for the dashboard, right? SMTP settings if we're going to be doing email communication, SMS settings to a text service. It's a definition for where users are, and so we'll show you quite a bit of that. As would be expected then, you know, one of the others is then managing users, right? Enrolling users and their various authority levels. We'll talk about that a little bit more. Reports, viewing reports. So site analysis. So my customers, sites, the cameras, the analytics, and selections for any date ranges in which I want to know all event activity that took place within a particular time frame. So I have the historical information here. And then I also have more of a trace and audit log for the dashboard for all users and actions and transactions within the dashboard. So I've got a good audit log trail for that. And then again, we talked about the support icon, and that goes right to the support portal, right? So let's go in a little bit deeper. When I log into the dashboard, one of the things you'll notice is the listing at the top is your listing of your customers. So you would select, and whether you have 2 or 200 customers or more listed here, this is where once enrolled that they'll be. You'll select that customer, hit save, and now anything that we take a look at in the dashboard will be relative to ABC Security Services, right? If I click on sites, I get exactly what you would expect, right? All of the locations and the site naming for those customers. There's a couple of ways, as there always is, and same as in a Windows environment, right? And the ways that I can add sites, I can do it through that deployment screen. I'll show you in a minute. Or I can click on add sites, and then I get the new name for the sites. I can search on their address within mapping, pinpoint that location. I can change their default icon for their logo, so it matches their corporate logo if you would like, or the picture of the building. And I can submit that in and then add. If I go into that site from here, I can go directly into that site, see where they are on a map. I can go to those cameras and I can take a look. I can do everything once I get to cameras. So this is the site view for that. And here's the listing of cameras. If I want to make any change, if I want to add a device to this site, I can do that from here. I can go into camera view, and up will come the cameras for the downtown train station site as an example here. We'll be talking about this in more depth, so we'll go back here. So that's sites. If I go to the camera view now, different from sites, up comes the camera view, all of the cameras for this customer. Now, obviously, I could just have one site, or I may have 20 or more sites for a particular customer. And if I go to camera view, that will give me all of my camera-centric views for all of the locations. And as I scroll through those, I can see a number of things, right? I know whether or not they're online. I see what the analytic is that we subscribe to. Here's intrusion detection, people count, people occupancy, people counting, and loitering detection. And as you can see, I can go in and add an analytic to that I can do a number of things within settings here, and we'll be doing that in show you a deeper view in just a minute. As we mentioned before, if I go into map view now, right, all the locations for this customer are going to be showing on the map again, whether that's, you know, region wide, province wide, statewide, citywide. I can go in as deep as I need to go, show those on a map. That can be useful, as will be the icons will be changing color as they are in event status. Just by hovering over a location, I can see the location of this customer, and if I need to, I can go right into camera view right from the map. I don't have to penetrate into commands or the toolbar, and I can go right back there. So get a nice function from a map, especially as you work with multi-location customers, and they start to be in a wider configuration. Having those plotted out and the ability to go to any of those locations right from a map view can be a nice functionality feature. Configurations, as we mentioned before, that's just the listing of the Nimble instance that's running VAS for that particular site. This gives us information about the memory, performance, processing within the Nimble instance. Typically, there's one per site. However, if you have more customers, you may have more than one Nimble instance per site. And that this screen here could be, you know, getting larger and larger as you have more locations. You don't need to typically interact with that. That's a technical operations function, but good to know where it is. The next icon is deployment icon. This is where we mentioned before, you know, adding a new customer. You remember you can do that in a number of different ways right here by adding a customer at the customer dropdown. Or I can click this button and it takes me to that same spot. Once I'm in a customer, I can add sites, or again, by clicking that location, it takes me right to the add site screen that I'm doing that adds a site to this customer. I can put in the site name, the site address. I can search for them, geomapping, click on a location so it gets saved. Again, I can update that. So we can do all of that. And then once I'm in the site, obviously I can add devices to each location for camera devices, and do the programming for those. So that's deployment. Settings, we mentioned before, this is where, again, not unlike your iPhone, this is where settings are done at the kind of global level in a number of areas. If I'm notifying my events through email, I'll need to connect to our channel partner's SMTP server. That's done here, and the information for that and that logon is contained here. If I'm doing a text messaging for those events and video clips and capabilities, this is where, with a service like Twilio, that my core information would be kept. And then if I have a need to do that within notifications, that is selected at the time of each individual analytic when we set those up, which I'll show you at that time. Storage, more information about what we have for storage and, you know, available drive space. STS app development, that's where any API integration is kept. So if I'm doing any integration with video monitoring platforms or customers' existing BI tools and we're integrating for notification, those would be kept here. And then a nice function down here gives you an overview of role privileges as I enroll individuals into the VAS dashboard for my as a channel partner use or as an end user. Here is a kind of a listing of those functionalities by admin role, by user role, and by viewer role. And obviously you can see that it's a cascading level of what, you know, what functions individuals can manage. Very useful and important to make sure people have access to what they need to and no more. And then having said that, for roles, the next icon is for managing end users, right? So as we add users to the system, I can add them in. I assign their pass roles. We select their level of access, and then they're in. If we go into an existing user, let's go into this guy, go into manage. I now get a listing of all of the sites that they have access to, and we can go in and now further modify that by site. So at first we did that global selection, right, of admin, user, or viewer. Now we can go into all the sites that have capability and we can trim those down even further and say, look, he's got no reason to be in Joe's kitchen. Let's select that and unassign. And now we can pare that down to those effective needed sites. So the must-haves for that individual. So good functionality in the managed area. Reports is the next function. So here's where we select a site. Then we can select our start and stop dates for reporting information. There won't be much in here because this is a demo site, but this gives you an idea of functionality. Then up will come my device location, up will come my cameras, my stream address information, and any event activity that we've got. And then, of course, we can, and so if you have more customers, you may have a lot of event activity. If I need to document any of that, I can export that into Excel, into the different analytics levels of events, format my column headings, and then use that data in any way that's, that's needed. So good reporting capability. And then the last icon down here is really kind of a track and trace, right? So this is where you're able to do an audit report for users in the system and what they've done inside of the dashboard and what functions they have. And again, being able to export that. So trace is really an audit function for the dashboard itself, whereas reports is a reporting function of analytic activity and events. And then last, we mentioned the support icon, and that's what brings you back to the main help center area or the customer support portal. So that's the overview of these. Let's go in now to a camera view and take a look at a few of the actual analytics. Again, there'll be a separate video for deeper programming, adding cameras, threshold setting for cameras, alert settings, notification settings. We'll be doing that at a deeper level. Today, we'll give you an overview of some of the analytics and what that looks like. Once you get to a camera screen, no matter how you get there, right? Whether you go through the camera-centric view, as we're doing here, or whether I'm in a site and then I go to the camera in a particular site, once I'm there, I can then penetrate directly into that site. And you'll see in the camera view, I see each of my analytics. So we'll go take a look at each one of these. And then I have options I can do. I can add analytics. I can edit those existing analytics. So in this case, every time you go into a camera, you get a summary view, right? Get a summary view of both the live picture of that camera. You get a toolbar across the top for making changes, programming, commissioning. We'll talk about that a little bit. If there's a detection zone, you'll see it on the screen. You'll have a summary of the analytic, right? What's happening? Alert, in this case, it's intrusion. Alert when intrusion count is greater or equal to 1. So if one person or more is in here, and then notification, in this case, in 30 seconds, right? For us, that's managing more because it's a demo website. You often might have that more frequent. And then there's a history, event history timeline. So typically this is going to have some event history in it at different levels. Here's an event here. And if you click on that event, it of course will take you right to that timeline of what that particular event was that created a notification, right? And here's a good example. Across the top, there is, I'll show you a few windows here, but we won't go deep into programming. If I want to make some changes or add any existing analytics, I can go through here, and this is where I start to make changes into some kind of core analytics area. That'll be contained in our commissioning video that'll be coming. I can do that. I can also go into each one of these sections, and now I configure my threshold, my alerts. Remember that in this case, it was if one or more, greater or equal to one person, frequency every 30 seconds. This is where I create that. And then once I have my actions, how do I want to communicate that, right? Do I want that to go by mail through the SMTP server? Do I want that to go by text in this case? And then what are the phone numbers that should go to? Or on my webhook, and I'm doing an integration directly to a customer, which these webhooks would probably be predefined since that would have already been done on the front end. But this gives you an idea of the programming capability. The next two tabs across the top are really about history, right? Event history and notification history. This is where, as I showed you on the timeline, If there was history here, I could go in, select that day, click OK, and across the top are going to be thumbnails of all the, in this case, notifications, whether by email or SMS that have gone out, and I could select those, you know, for viewing. And what would come up is exactly the same thing that we had here, right? It would be a video clip of the actual event activity. I can do the same thing with event. This is another way for me to go through a timeline, looking back, find out what events took place. Depending on my thresholds, not every event might be a notification. So this gives you all events, and then all events that were notifications sent off. The other tab up here is scheduling. If you can imagine, with intrusion, I may not want that during the day, right? That intrusion analytic, because of going in and out that door, should maybe only active from 7 p.m. at night to 6 a.m. in the morning, right? On maybe 5 days a week, and then 24 hours on weekends. Well, this is the scheduling, not unlike your Outlook meeting calendar, where we schedule alert activity, what it is, when it's active, when it's not, when it repeats, and this is how we manage that activity. So a lot to go through, but in general, this is the screen you see from any analytic. So in this case, this is intrusion, right? And again, the thresholds and the summary, I like this nice summary is here. And then from a more technical perspective, there's a diagnostics section for each camera. Again, more technical operations based. That tells us frames per second, what the total detections have been, latency, and any, you know, camera processing time. So it gives us a little bit deeper. Typically, you won't need to be going in there. So that's that particular camera. Let's go in now to, that was intrusion. Let's go into people counting next, right? So here's an analytic for people counting. Again, the screen is going to be the same, functional tabs at the top, editing capability. But now what the analytic is described here again in summary. Alert when total count is greater or equal to 5, and notify every 60 seconds, right? So one person coming across, once I have individuals of 5 or more in this particular analytic, then we're going to get a notification. So if I go to the timeline and click the most recent event, I've got a resolution issue here, but you'll see the traffic activity, you know, that's detected, and then the event that's sent off, right? And you can see there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it's met this threshold, and then the notification has been sent, as we talked about before. Now I can do a lot of things here that we'll talk about in another video, right? I can change the alerts. I can change my threshold settings. I can say, man, I don't want that greater or equal to 5. I want, this is an interior lobby. I want to know when I've got 10 people here so I can open up another register or get another customer service agent out. And so I have the ability to say, what's my threshold or greater than equal to here? My communication frequency, we already talked about the notification method, right? So I have a lot of options here. And that's the people counting analytic. Again, one of the things that you know, I can do here is I can put in multiple detection zones, right? Maybe I'm counting people in a particular area. My field of view is wide enough that I actually see the lobby and the outdoor vestibule, right? I can count people in the lobby to know when we need to be getting additional attention for customer service. And I can have a second detection zone outside the window on the sidewalk tracking for loitering, right? And I can do that in the same camera with 2 different detection zones and 2 different analytics. So pretty powerful of what you can actually do. So speaking of loitering, let's go to one. This next camera view is loitering app. So again, same camera view, same functionality. I can edit analytics. I can change alert configurations. I can do history and notification. I can schedule. Here you can see the threshold, right? And individuals that are detected in the zone. And then some are in creating an alarm against the threshold settings and some are not, right? In this case, loitering, alert when dwell time violation and tracking count is greater or equal to 1, notify every second after that, right? So if I go into an alarm activity here, as soon as somebody's in here long enough, I get alarm box. You can see the other person just left, and I got the notification going out. Again, notification history, I can go back into the calendar, click on the days, find the notifications, and all of the notifications will come up to review, should that be needed. So you start to get a sense for event activity. And remember, now that reporting function is starting to make sense, right? You can go in and run a report for how many alarms I've had in a particular site or cameras and have some documentation, should that be needed. And then, so that's loitering. Let's go to, we did people counting. Let's go to people occupancy, right? So you saw intrusion up here. Let's go to people occupancy. So a little bit different analytic, right? So now we're not counting people that are out here and setting a threshold. In this case, we're really using a control point, a choke point, right, for entry and exit. And we're doing up counts and down counts in areas that we want to know what is the occupancy where I can't have cameras. That could be a theme park. That could be, restrooms. That could be any area where I don't have a camera inside, but I can manage the activity at that door area, right? And so that's what this is. You can see when an individual walks by, they're detected. Then the up count and the down count for occupancy is managed here, right? And then we set thresholds for what that occupancy level is and when a report should go out. And that's what is in here, right? In this case, it's alert when occupancy count in range is 10 to 15, and in this case, notify every 60 seconds. Now, this doesn't net out because there's other ways to get out of this area, but this is a good example of, if you can only enter and leave out here, then obviously your up counts and your down counts would net out, and if they didn't, that would be your occupancy level, right? So you get and so now you start to see with both people counting and occupancy, we start to have a lot of business efficiency applications now to be able to be applied both externally and often internally now. And then last, I think I mentioned it before, here's a intrusion camera where you've got intrusion zones. The threshold's already here that we've said, greater than 1 or more. Here's an example. And I can create multiple detection zones, remember? A lot of capability here with VAS 1.4 and a lot more functionality to come. So that's a kind of a quick overview. If you're interested in learning more about how to commission cameras, deeper about how to edit analytics, how to set thresholds, how to set notifications at a deeper level, then we'll have another video posted and you can review that as well. Should you have any questions, please do not hesitate to go to megh.com. A lot of additional resources there, a lot of information around solutions, our bundled VAS for smart buildings, our partners, and certainly in addition to those you're already working with, ways to contact us to learn more. So thanks for attending. Hope this was helpful, and have a great day.